As an educator, I miss my students. I miss my students. And I know how important it is. I do, to have that connection, that in-room, that classroom connection. But as a parent,
Yes.
safety. I would feel horrible. Okay, even as a teacher, let's say I got the coronavirus and I went to school and if I even got one student sick, I would know the risks of them contaminating their family members and then affecting their health. And if I lost a student or any of their family members because of my actions, not knowing that I was possibly contagious, I'd probably quit teaching.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 5th episode of the J's Up podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Nicanor.
And I'm your co-host, Jaime Leal.
And we are joined with Miss Michelle Honl, who is one of our teachers at PSG Southwest, who teaches architecture at PSG Southwest, and one of her students is Valeria Solis. It's a pleasure to have you. We're going to talk about all kinds of things that your amazing class and amazing students have done to better and propose better safety for our students coming back, maybe in the fall, maybe in the spring, but to ensure our safety nonetheless. So thank you for that. And Mrs. Honl, for those who don't know, can you go ahead and explain what your students have done and i.e. what happens in the classroom?
My students were in a special summer dual language program in which our project was to create an architectural design to return back to the classroom. So this was an architectural system to return back to the classroom. We took into consideration social distancing, how do we continue education safely in the classroom or outside the classroom? How do we go to the cafeteria? How do we just transport from one location to another, including security? So the students had to learn how to read floor plans, and then they took what they learned and created a 2D and a 3D virtual reality. So they not only recreated those floor plans, they made them into a three-dimensional system, virtual reality, so that we could show how it looks on how the systems would work. And they also incorporated a lot of other ideas. And we followed the CDC guidelines that were given at the time and the TEA guidelines. We implemented those as well. So they had to learn that as well. And the systems completely collaborate. All of us collaborated. I wanted this a team effort, not a instructor effort, So everything was shared. Our brainstorming, our designs, our PowerPoint, everything was shared. The students had full access into completing this project. And then PSJA ISD saw what we presented and invited us to present their project, to the operation board members.
Wow. And this was all done virtually, right? Like the communication between the teacher, the instructor, and the students, right?
Yes, we did everything through Google Classroom and through one of our virtual reality programs.
Wow. It's amazing to see all the creativity and stuff. So let me ask a question for Valeria, and it's just, I guess it would be somewhat of a test, but not really a test. It's overall just a question. Okay. If a teacher's had 5 class days, all right, with 30 students each, and do all 150 students need to stay home if one person is infected with COVID-19?
Um, yeah, I think it would be great to go back to school. I do miss everyone, and it's really exciting to think going outside again. But I think that safely comes first. So yeah, it would be better to stay safe in our houses.
Yeah, I
And
100% agree with that. Go ahead,
and
Chris.
I mean, as you guys know, um, schools aren't reopening until the 27th, or maybe reopening until the 27th of
Hmm.
this year of September. And I mean, we all know that that's something for our student safety, which is really important to all of us. And so I'm glad that Hidalgo County, and I'm pretty sure the whole state of Texas will soon follow, because I mean, it is very, very important. And I remember thinking, like, March, when we first got released from for spring break. We got released early because they were like, okay, COVID's kind of starting to rile up. We're gonna send you guys home. Be safe. We'll have you guys back after spring break when everything's fine. And then they added another week to spring break. And then they were like, okay, we're gonna have to do learning from home. And I remember just thinking, like, this entire time, like, man, I was hoping we'd come back to school in April, in May, and now we're we're hoping and praying that we'll come back to school in September, which
Yeah.
is, I mean, it's crazy to think about, but I know that things are have to get better before we get back to school, and things have only gotten worse here in Hidalgo County, which is unfortunate, but is what is happening. So, having known that, um, what are some things you think, like, obviously we were all hoping to go back to school in April and May, but we didn't. And why do you guys think that is? And now we're waiting till September. And what do you think we can do to get back to school by September 27th?
Well, I think this is a job to everyone. Like, not only a few people can be doing the social distancing. If everyone is going out, this is not going to end soon. So we all have to be aware, and we all have to do our part so this can get better.
I agree.
100% piggybacking off of what she said, we all have to put in our work, and in order to hopefully get back to where we originally were. And it's not a good thing that obviously it's not a good thing that COVID has done this, where we can't even see friends or family and at school anymore. And what we all have to do is we all have to put in the extra effort in order to getting back to what we call the normal. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes. I think we have actually a really interesting thing to talk about. Mrs. Honl, you mentioned before that your students are working on this project to ensure, or to protect our students if we were to return back to school, and ideas and designs to ensure that our students are safe. And I remember before we left for school, we had put in, like, Germex dispensers at the end of every hallway or in front of every restroom. And we felt like, okay, that was a nice improvement to, staying safe and staying clean. But what are some improvements that your guys' design has brought up in our school to ensure the safety of our students?
Uh, well, the students have proposed some of them. Some of them are more realistic than others, but I mean, they're all realistic in a way. They
Mm-hmm.
proposed, for example, if we had to go to the cafeteria, that there be student barriers between individuals, as well as skipping seats between students, and even possible eating in the classroom to prevent that excess amount of contamination in the air,
Mm-hmm.
as well as having that same protection in the seating in the classroom, and those extra barriers for the teachers. And we have every school has extra access, but sometimes for security reasons, just to maintain control, those accesses are closed off. Well, right now in this situation, we might need to access those ingress and egress passageways. For example, cutting through the atriums or the courtyards that we have, or using the back of the hallways to loop to another hallway. You know, those little things like that, in which they're available for emergencies, and this might be the emergency that we need to use them as a regular routine.
And what do you think? You guys really pushed for, obviously, safety, but what's one thing in that safety like category that you guys like came up with anew and kind of really like showed them like it is possible to stay safe? If you have anything.
Yeah, we discussed, it was all about keeping distance, but we want to give the students the message that if they put their part, they are going to be safe. Like, everyone has to be aware of the situation, because we can do a lot of things, but it's not going to work if they don't follow the rules. So it's more like teach them about the situation, and yeah, show them like how can be better.
Right. And I agree with that 100%, because I mean, just getting students to, you know, quiet down in the classroom seems to be difficult sometimes. And so to expect students to, you know, follow all of these kinds of guidelines and instructions is probably going to be difficult, if not more difficult. And so that's a scary thing. So I think Hidalgo County pushing, you know, school a little, like pushing it till September 27th is completely right. So that we understand the intensity and the kind of, yeah, just the intensity of this virus, and how dangerous it is to the public, and especially to our students in schools and their families. You know what I mean? And so it's just good that students are recognizing that, you know what, if we have to make this small sacrifice for the betterment of my future, my family's future, and everything, my community, my nation, you know what I mean? And I think that's something that's really good that's going on. So I want to, you know, say that and say thank you for, you know, talking to people who need to hear our students, and we know as students, Valeria, that, you know, there's nothing like in school, like teaching and in school learning. Like, being in the classroom is so much different than being online, and you know this. And so what is something that what is something you miss most about school and about the education that you learned in school that is really pushing you to want to do kind of the architectural design and to better the safety, to make sure that you get back to school? Like, what's the most important thing to you about in school learning?
We are young and we all miss our friends, but right now I think that it's more important to think about the health of everyone, but not only physical health, like mental health. Like some teams are really like sad or depressed in these times. So the contact with other people is what makes them feel like low, and yeah, most people need that touch with other people, like to feel happy. And I know that everyone needs their friends, everyone is going through a hard time, and that is why we want to give them that feeling that we care about the students.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that. And this might be a little bit of an out there question, but if you could possibly invent one thing that you think could could help the whole school, realistic or not realistic, what would be the one thing that you might want to create in order to keep the whole school safe?
The COVID vaccine.
Okay, obviously the obvious one. All right.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
That was perfect.
I was gonna say, like, like a COVID-free hazmat suit that everyone had to wear that was not like a hazmat suit and instead is like normal clothes. But I mean,
the whole vaccine.
the vaccine, I mean, that's so much more perfect.
You can't
Yes.
beat that one.
Yeah, no,
You can't. I was really intrigued when Mrs. Honl mentioned virtual reality, like a 3D, like version of what you guys were mocking up. And I didn't get a chance to see this, so I'll be sure to email Mrs. Honl so I can look at this, because that sounds really interesting. And can you talk about like the kind of work in designing, like, first of all, the whole school from like the interior and exterior again, and like, I mean, practically from memory, I'm sure, for the students. And so like, how hard was it to work on things like that, and how time consuming?
Well, the program, well, we took a day just to learn how to read the basics of floor plans and how to read the units, because it's not written in feet and inches. It's not verbatim written. So they had to learn the abbreviations and the symbolism. And we kept it simple, but yes, being prior students did help. And Mrs. Burden was there one of the last days where it was accessible before this program really took off. And I said, can you please take some pictures so that we can make sure we captured as close as possible that, that replication of the school environment. But the students know exactly, like you said, from memory. So they took that and they built the floor plans. They replicated those floor plans in 2D. And this program we use takes that 2D and changes it to 3D, and they put those finishing touches, the right coloring and placement of accessories and furniture. So as far as time consuming, it's on, every student had a different area. So it wasn't one school which everyone accessed. The program isn't that large. So we divided the areas, and I let the students decide. And whoever was open to anything, we all got a space that they all got a space that they were comfortable with. And if it was too intimidating or too much, then we took a step back, say, okay, let's cut it up. Or what can we do to not make it such a heavy load? Because some of these students had summer school as well. So Valeria replicated the cafeteria. The thing is, she not only had to do the actual version, she also had to do the proposed version. So in a way, she had to do two redesigns. Wow. So you might want to, Valeria, how much time, was it a lot of time? I mean, if you could share with everybody, was it fun?
Yeah. Finally, it was really, really hard because like I went to school every day and I couldn't remember how school looks like. Like I didn't remember like the floor, like all the little things. I was like, I don't remember anything. So yeah, it was really hard. I went to the Southwest Facebook to look like at the pictures because I couldn't remember anything. But yeah, it took me a lot of time. But like once like the purpose of everything, like it was worth it.
Mrs. Honl, you said in like pretty much all of your guys' designs that one of the key aspects of that was social distancing in the classroom, social distancing in the cafeteria, social distancing in the hallway, in the restroom, things like that. And like, I mean, it just goes to show how important and how safe we can be if we just practice things like social distancing to decrease things like that. And so, I mean, just getting back to school would be great, but to ensure that, everyone follows certain things would be even greater. So, I mean, I know you guys aren't, mind controlling, but how do you guys feel we can teach students how important COVID is to our community?
Maybe some people that was directly affected with all this COVID situation can like give a speech, because we're the ones going to school, but like if I get sick, I can get sick my family. So it's not only about making myself safe. Like, I'm aware that I'm going to go to my home and there's more people who can get sick. So yeah, maybe someone who already like went through to like a family like who yeah.
No, I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah, yeah. I get it. Valeria, Mrs. Honnold, is there anything you want the people to know before we close off and before we just send everyone off? Um, I mean, the project and everything you guys are working on is amazing. And I want to thank you for looking out for our school community, for our little Javelina family. And not only that, but, I know that this isn't just a Javelina family thing. It's something that can affect our community, our district as a whole, and maybe even, our entire nation maybe, or state. And I mean, just taking those first steps is super important and super super brave. And I mean, I just want to thank you guys for that. But I want to hear what you guys have to say, anything that you guys want to the people to know.
Valeria?
Yeah. We are not like sure when are we going back to school, but we can still do our part in our houses, like just stay home and be aware of all the situation. We can use this time to grow as people and to see how lucky we are, how lucky we were before, and just do our part.
This project was just supposed to be a summer project, but from the very beginning, I wanted it to be personal, because this is about our lives, and it is a personal project. It's about the students and their safety returning back to school, and the fact that this project was made by the students for students. And then we were invited by Nick Martinez, the PSJ operations manager, to present it to the people that operate all the different departments within the district. They heard not my voice, but the voice of multiple students and their concerns. And what we presented was their concerns. It wasn't just like, oh, let's present what COVID is. No, it was, how do we continue receiving education safely with COVID, and all the different areas that it involves. As many, well, not all of them, but as much as we could.
Right.
So it is so important that when we do go back to school, the students do care about the rules. Not like, oh, okay. I mean, if it's going to affect all of us one way or another, either directly or indirectly, through our family, through our friends, through people we know. I have already lost colleagues within the district, and I know friends whose family members are in trouble right now. So I think it's so important that we all contribute to safety, whether it's in school or at home or in the community. I'm all about returning back to school, but I don't want to risk anyone's safety there's the want and the need. And right now, I think we need to do what's needed to be done. And I think it's so important that students speak up and say, we need this. Because sometimes, even in our own homes, our parents, some of the parents are like, I have a healthy immune system. And so the students might actually be, the children might actually be like, no, I'm going to be more precautious, I'm going to be more cautious. And so you have that, okay, well, my parents said, let's go. At the same time, I don't want to go. And we understand there's those dilemmas. And we understand it's also the need to connect personally, that human connection. And it's hard, but we all need to make that sacrifice. And I think this project shows those important sacrifices that need to be taken, and the considerations on how we can just make this happen, so we can try to return to some kind of normalcy. But I want to say thank you to PSJ for hearing their voice, and that whatever happens, whenever we return to school, or if we don't, we all need to take that responsibility on ourselves, even if that means learning online educationally. You know, like there a comment was made earlier, like, I don't want to go through school at my own time and do my classes. Well, this is where we have to take responsibility for our actions, whether it's receiving an education or putting on a mask or staying home. But this is where we all need to put that extra effort in everything we do for the safety of each other and ourselves.
Okay, so as we know, there are the coronavirus outbreak is insane, and we have a lot of people saying that the coronavirus in many ways is a lot like the flu, and everybody dies of the flu, and it's just a matter of time that certain people pass on due to a virus. And my question is, what would you say to those people who just think it's just another small disease that people die of?
Oh,
Valeria.
yeah. It's an opinion. Everyone has the right to have an opinion. But in these times, it's not just only making yourself safe. Like, you have to think about other people that you can get sick. So, like, if you don't think that is that deep, so you can stay in your house, right? Like, just don't go for the world and getting sick everyone. Like, just think about everyone, not just yourself.
It's a very strong point you made there. Yeah. And
I feel, well, this is very personal for me.
yes.
I've had pneumonia. In fact, there's like 2 types of pneumonia, and I had one right after the other, and it took me 6 months to recover. My lungs are damaged. I'm a very healthy person. I've had the flu. I've caught colds. I mean, I'm a teacher. You guys always give me everything. I was like, and I sanitize, and I have hand sanitizer, and I clean. If a student comes in sick, just sneezes, I actually sanitize this whole entire area because I don't want other students getting sick. So the flu, you can pass it, but it takes a lot of work. This is not the flu. This is so minute and so airborne, and they still don't know all the facts. They're still learning constantly. For a virus to be having 30 different strains, and for it to be mutating, and they can't control it, and you can't even go to the groceries without having to wash your fruit. If you have to wash your fruit and soak them to clean them and take off your shoes, this is not the flu. And all we have to do is look at your grandmother. Look at a family member who's diabetic, and there are a lot of diabetics in the valley. Or a person, I'm not diabetic, and you think, oh, Mrs. Honl's fine, she's tough. But you don't know if someone has an underlying condition, like they had pneumonia when they were in college, or there's diabetes in their family, or you don't know if they're a surviving patient of cancer, a survivor of cancer. So it's not worth risking all these people's lives because, oh, I'm strong, I can handle it, I'll just drink soup. Look at the children around you. It's so much more. It's just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And we need to be very vigilant about being protective on not contaminating others and not contracting it ourselves. If you don't do it for yourself, look out the window. Do it for your neighbor. My neighbor across the street has at least 10 people living in the home, and they have COVID.
Wow.
And I worry, how are they going to get food? So I'm already thinking of how they're not even asking me for anything. And I'm like, what can I do to help them recover? And there are children, and there are elderly as well. So the odds don't look good. It's not the flu.
It's not the flu. Thank you, Ms. Honl. Thank
Can
you,
I
Ms.
just-
Felice. Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, of course, of
Of
course.
course.
um it really makes me sad, like, to go to Snapchat and Instagram and everyone is hanging out with their friends. My dad has to go to work, and my dad got the COVID-19. He's okay now, but like it was like 3 weeks that we couldn't see him, and we were worried about him. And the only thing that he did was to go to work because we need the money to eat, right? And like there's people who just don't care about everyone else. So yeah, it's just that, like turn and see how is everyone else. Like it's not just about yourself.
Thank you everyone for joining us. It's been a pleasure having both of you. Thank you. And remember our community to stay safe, stay aware, and thank you for watching the J's Up podcast.
Thank you very much.